Welcome to the latest episode of the Indoencers podcast. Our guest today in another interview came up with the line "Asa na namukyo," or "It's the interest or passion which is most important." And that short phrase so brilliantly sums up his music and what he stands for. He's covered genres from Indian folk and semi-classical to genres like funk and rock, while sampling TED Talks and breakcore music, and he's even done traditional African music. The variety and freshness in his sound has helped his music gain attention in the South Indian music industries. His songs and score for films like Maviran and Mandela in particular, as well as his work with this band Urka, gained significant praise and has garnered fan bases of their own. I'm so happy to be sitting down today with the wonderful composer and multi-instrumentalist, and while he won't admit this himself, somebody who is also a fantastic singer and lyricist. We have Bharath Sankar here with us today. Thank you so much for taking the time to join in.
Thanks for having me, Nisha. That was a huge intro. Thanks for that.
I mean, people say this, but this is all just things you've done. I understand it can be a bit surprising when you hear it all back because you don't really think about it when you're actually, working and you keep thinking about the next project. But
You're right.
these are all things you've done.
Yeah. And thanks for recollecting about the TED Talk sample and
That threw me off when I heard it. I hadn't heard of that song until I was preparing for this podcast.
oh, nice. Okay.
That threw me off completely. And what I like to do on this podcast is kind of take it right back, go right to your first days and kind of trace the steps that you've taken to get to where you are today. So let's start right in the beginning. You've said on multiple occasions that you're not formally trained, and
Yeah.
so much of the knowledge and skill that you've developed as a musician is self-taught. And
Yep.
that, of course, requires a lot of passion and hard work, but I also think it requires a lot of curiosity and fascination towards music.
Mhm.
So is that kind of curiosity and fascination something you had from a young age? And if so, if there's a moment where you think that fascination really clicked, is there a moment that you can recall where, things really clicked for you in terms of your interest towards music?
Yeah, just like you mentioned, it's more than anything like the technical knowledge that we're trying to gather, the research that we do, everything, more than anything, the curiosity is finally which drives me. I think from a young age, I didn't have musicians around me. I didn't have musicians in the family or anybody into music or anything or entertainment. As a matter of fact, we never was consuming entertainment. We never were consuming entertainment. Like it was briefly my grandma watching all the soap operas of Tamil culture where they have serials running for they call it as serials. They run for like 5 years, 7 years, and all that. So that was pretty much in terms of entertainment that I had around, art that I had around. So I was exposed to the songs that were performed in temples and in the streets where they gather for a festival or something. I am pretty sure most of the people would go for that particular event to go pray and get blessings and all that. But also there was this group which was really fascinated by the way how they sing and watching them up close with their instruments playing and all that, with mainly the drums. It was the player who plays those drums. Those days, that one particular person would be the star of the show. Just like how people go and pray in the temples, this group will always look for that one person who was the center of attraction. And I always sort of got attracted to that rhythm and the sound of those big drums, those traditional Indian drums that were played. So that's the only thing that I can think of that got my attention. And I wanted to sort of play that instrument in the same festival someday, eventually, back then. So I used to go sit. It happens yearly, once in a year, I guess. So I go and sit. It's the same person that plays for every year. So I just go sit near that person and watch his hands, how they hit the drum and how the sound comes and how built he is to hit it so hard, even without the mic. It's heard for inside the temple and all that, and it was quite fascinating for me. That was the moment I think I got attracted towards the instrument, towards the music that was played, towards the energy that was there, and the and the limelight that got for you when you play that instrument particular. So everybody used to watch that one particular person, because they might not even look at the singer who was singing. It was that one person who always steals the show, and everybody waits for that changeover that he makes between songs, and like the way how he played that dolak and all, like not the traditional way. Sometimes he'll just make it upright and play with both the hands in one skin, like a chanda or something. So I got really fascinated by all the what to say, animated things that was happening around that one instrument and the instrument player. And so I sort of wanted to play, because I was quite sure that he would get tired by the end of the show. So if there is a break for him somewhere, he might even consider giving that to me. So year by year I see that. I go back home, and I strongly remember, this Sundays and all, there'll be this program in Sun TV, Lalita Vin Paattukku Paattu, like that, sorts of Antakshari kind of shows, reality shows happen during 90s. And my home wakes up to those reality shows in the morning, when everybody keeps singing. I remember I was near the washing machine just listening to the songs, and I was just having my hands behind my back and just started tapping on the metal that was the shell of the washing machine surface, right? So then my mom comes and scolds me, don't hit the washing machine and all that. Then I go back, and I take a plate. I start hitting the plate. Like I know for a fact that I'm doing it properly with the rhythm that's coming from the TV for the song. But none of them liked it. If I hit a plate, then I'll suffer hunger for the life, is what my mom told me. Don't make music, don't make rhythm with the plate, don't make music, is what she keeps telling me. Not anymore, I guess. I think she's come to terms with that. But that was my starting point. I think it was the rhythm that got attracted. Then eventually I got an opportunity to play with. I kept asking that person, knowing that I can play, because I've never played before. Like you mentioned, it was just the curiosity. So I just asked him, Uncle, can you just give me for one of the songs? He said, okay, wait. And he kept playing. I said, okay, he's always saying that he'll give, but he never gave it. Then finally, like one song that nobody cares so much, no? There will be, in the set list of those songs, there will be songs where people also take a break. Okay, in a set. So they don't generally bother that song. They wait for the other song, not this song. So this will be like a break for the entire crowd. So he just gave it to me because I was pestering him to give it to me and all that. So in the unwanted song, he gave that dolki to me, and I started hitting it. I started playing it, and I really liked the way how music resonated. When you hit a skin and it's just reverberating to the entire place. So then I kept asking him, and I kept taking him. So whenever he takes a break, like to wipe his hands off or take some talcum powder to spread it on the skin, I used to grab the dolki and start playing for the next song. And eventually when I grew, I was old enough where he plays for half the set and I play for the rest of the set. Then I started playing all the highlight songs eventually. And that was like my winning moment, where everybody saw me and not him. So that's what I remember from my childhood. Also would like to quote just one more incident that I mentioned even before, in an interview before. This is something that I think maybe psychologically it has attracted myself towards music. What is the incident is that I think it was my 4th or 5th grade in my school, and I saw one of my classmates, bringing his keyboard ceremoniously to the school, and I was in the drama team and I was in the acting side, and he was the one supposed to make the music for the skit that we were doing. So he was there with his keyboard, and it was told to me that I should not touch it and I should not come near that and all that. Maybe it would have gotten into me somewhere that I should in my life I should definitely touch a keyboard at least. So I saw one keyboard lying in my other school that I eventually had to move to for my eighth grade, and I saw one keyboard which nobody else cared about in the music room. It was just lying there without the power, so I just connected the adapter and started playing like randomly, like the national anthem, all the the Titanic theme music, all these things I never knew, or I never even knew the schematics of a keyboard also. But I just know for a fact that I know this song, so I start to try to find those notes, try to find those keys. Okay, if I hit this, what is this sound? If I hit that, what is that sound? If I play this together, it's making me remind of Twinkle Twinkle. So that way I that way I figured out. But that was keyboard. This happened way before that. My music, in terms of rhythm and playing the dolak and dolki, was my first ever entry point into the world of music.
You were talking about playing in the temple. Is that separate from, I believe you were playing Dolak at school for a little bit as well.
That's after this.
Oh, after this. Okay, okay, okay.
Yeah. So
Interesting.
I was referred by my younger brother who was in third or fourth grade. Everybody has music as one of the periods in a day. So like one week it'll be music, the other week the same period will be taken over by the art teacher, and the same period taken over by the library teacher and all that. So one of those periods where it's generally not, they don't teach you music and all, it's just something that you can sit over and play with your friends. They don't really teach you music in the school that I was studying, but it used to have a music room with no use and all that. So it's third grade students, you can't teach them music. So my brother was sitting around and playing, and he was the music teacher. She was having some sort of a conversation with my younger brother, and he had told that my elder brother can play dolak and dolki and all that. And I was called by the music teacher and asked, "Will you? I mean, do you play?" I said, "Yeah, I'll play." Do you want to play for the school team? I said, "Yeah, I'll play." And that's when I got myself a dolki. I mean, it was not me who bought it; it was a school that bought it. But I was the only one who played in that entire school. So, so with the the school team who sang bhajan songs and prayers and all that, I was the one who was using dolak as my charm to gain all the reputation throughout the school and all that. So everybody, just like the temple festival, everybody was looking forward for my playing during the Fridays that we used to do the bhajans in the school and go for competitions outside of school. Competitions specifically for bhajans and all that, and I see like proper professional kids playing dolki and I get amused every time. But but this is what I have got, so I should also display what I have. That's how I used to have it in my mind, and I did it. So that was, so for first was the temple, the festival and all that, and then eventually led to my school team playing dolak. And that's where I found the keyboard in the same room. I started playing the keyboard. I saw some seniors come and play some, because all of us know at least a little bit of happy birthday or a twinkle twinkle or something that someone might have taught someone. So I remember like two three of them started playing. That it was not like a proficient, it was very not so proficient, but it was enough to amuse me. And that's when I started picking up. Then the incident came to my mind where I was not allowed to touch the keyboard back then. So I started playing with the keyboard. That's how the journey started.
That's really interesting. Not only the story with the Dolak, but you mentioned just now that you were part of your drama team as
Yeah.
well. And I also know that your father had a real interest towards art. So there's this kind of pattern here, I guess, of, art or, at least creative expression
Yeah.
within the family.
Yeah.
Even if, you don't come from a musical background or an entertainment background, do you
Yeah.
think there was something in the family where like creative expression was kind of, I don't know if encouraged is the right word, but do you think there's something you took from your family in that sense or not really?
No, the only creative expression that I saw from my dad do it is from all the waste materials that was lying around my home, like a box from a thing that you bought, or someone might have gifted you some nice gift wrapping paper in a bag and all that. All those gifts you use, but what about the boxes and the bags and the papers that you receive? He makes literally 3D objects out of those things. That is like his own thing. Like he has not learned or anything, but he just gets fascinated by sitting around cutting those cardboards and having paste along, and buying color papers and sticking around. So I remember for a fact that I had my tricycle obviously when I was like 2 years or so, and that tricycle was made into like a Bajaj scooter by him, by sticking around all the cardboards around the making it look like an actual two-wheeler bike. So all those small things that he's still doing it, by the way, but it's something that's so satisfactory for him. If he wants to just cut off from whatever is happening, he'll just go and sit around in a corner and make something out of. It's not really like an origami kind of a thing. It's more of like a very very raw, independent way of making that particular object that he might have his vision for. So like he might have seen one chariot near a temple. He'll try to make that from his vision. So there's no like a photo or anything. Sometimes there will be something from a magazine that you would have seen, so he would have that picture in front of him to make it. But most of the times I remember he just makes things, and I'll ask him, what is this, what are you making? And he'll say, that day when we went there, I saw that one there, so I'm making that one here. And when you go to many places, you also see such handicrafts displayed, right? So he'll get fascinated and inspired by all those things and try to replicate that with whatever he can and all that. So I was always curious, and I always wanted to let me also do something, let me also make something, let me also make something 3D out of those type of, because that was happening in the house. But he's he has his day job, he had to go, so this was only in a fraction of time that he gets for himself on a Sunday or something, or sometimes not even on a Sunday. Like very rarely he gets time to do that. He's got that finesse of cutting out alphabets like a precise machine cut or a die cut thing, where he cuts A B C D till Z and 0 to 9, all the numbers. Like it'll be like proper machine cut. So all the happy birthday signs at my home, everything will be his cuttings, like from newspapers. And then he eventually he kept improvising and improving his own technique of cutting that alphabet in that particular calligraphic font and all that. That was like without any sophistication around, is what I'm trying to say. It was just the pure imagination. There was no proper tools for him. He never knew that this stationery is important to do this, or this is designated for this sort of a cut and all that. It was just a very normal scissor that was used to cut my home's milk packet and his alphabets. So all these things, making the most out of whatever is around, was something I think I got from my family. My tata, my grandfather, he listens to a lot of music. He's not a musician, but he can sing like a pro. But it was just inside our home. Not even like, it was not even like a thing that was celebrated, or that thing that was looked forward to when people gather and all that. Suddenly, randomly, he'll start singing and it'll sound exactly like a pro. And I used to ask him, have you learnt? Because he tells me that he's listened only to music and he did nothing. He has not learnt. But just by listening, he'll be able to identify the ragas and all that. And he'll suddenly sing this thing, and he'll ask me what raga is, and how will I know raga and all. And he'll say this is the raga. But he doesn't know the swarams and all that. He'll just know this is the raga. So when he hears, he sort of tries to identify what raga this is based on and all that. I think music, in terms of family, I think my grandfather was the one who was at least singing at home. I never heard anybody sing at home. And dad, obviously, this one, if he had the luxury of taking or figuring this as a career, maybe he would have been developing 3D models today in a huge scale, or he would have been like one of those celebrated artists if he had the right guidance and everything supported. But unfortunately that couldn't happen, because he was the sole breadwinner of the family, so he had to step out and make money for the entire family. So that got died in terms of career for him. But he still is around such things and he's happy, and he'll be the one who will be contacted for all the Navaratri Golu presentations at different houses. Like, and even in my school, I remember they were trying to make a forest in a classroom. So with just paper and things, like make it like the nativity set and all. No, he's got like the extended version of the nativity set before. When we even knew that there is something called a nativity set around, where people do for their Christmas and all that. I remember my school felicitated him separately for helping us around, and that one entire classroom was made into look like a jungle with mountains and grass and all that. So he was quite the inspiration, I think. uh, Personally, I think every person in my family is one inspiration to me. We take, obviously, every person influences you a lot, and it definitely what to say, expresses in the art that I'm making, is what I think.
That's really interesting to hear that this kind of DIY kind of approach
Yeah.
to creativity runs in the family, because I heard that even the start of your composing journey started with you taking like poems and like just setting tunes to them.
Yeah.
What was that like? Like, how did that get started? Was it just like curiosity where you were like, you saw these poems and you were like, let me try and put tunes to them, or did somebody like suggest that idea, or how did that happen?
No, like I was mentioning about playing with the keyboard on the music room, right?
Hmm.
So when that started, my playtime started sort of reducing. So I always look forward to that 1 hour that I get during my lunch break to go play the keyboard that was there in the music room. So I was anyway figuring out some song or the other every day, and eventually I got myself a keyboard, like a very small keyboard my dad bought me after I completed the 10th grade. I was trying to figure out the songs that I hear, or the latest chartbusters that we used to listen to, trying to impress the friends around and all that. So at that exact same tone, I'll put, like, fits. For example, like there's this song I remember from the movie Kadal Kondin. Uh, it's Devadai Kandin.
Yeah,
There's
yeah, yeah.
Devadai Kandin. There's this flute or whistle intro that's in the beginning.
Yes.
I used to play just that with that exact tone in my keyboard. I try to see which is matching that, and I play that. So anyway, I'm just trying to figure out whatever is happening around, whatever song that I'm hearing and all that. Then I also happen to listen to a lot of new music, in terms of, apart from the movie music, this SS music was also making their own music. Like they were SS music. They were broadcasting, I think, songs that was not a part of movies. So there was this segment somewhere in the evening, I think, like for 30 minutes or 1 hour. All the English songs would be played, and after that, there'll be this independent section where you listen to new music. Maybe that, and say, seeing or hearing things about composers, and like Yogi B and Nachatra, like I was mentioning in the previous interview. Like when you listen to such new stuff back then, it just ignited the spark. Hey, we should also definitely make something like this in the future, is what drove me. So I started sitting with my computer every night after school. Before I entered into college, I was just after my 12th grad. Every day I used to sit with my computer and figure out how to make a song, not musically, technically. Uh, so I used to make songs just with loops and have me sing over. So I made one. So it was like a very shitty cover of this old song where I think MGR sings "உன்னை அறிந்தால் நீ உன்னை அறிந்தால் உலகத்தில் போராடலாம்." That I I don't know. I know the song. I was like browsing through the loops from the software that I had, and there was just one guitar loop, and I immediately started singing that over the guitar loop, and I felt nice. So I just recorded my voice and heard back, and I was like flying. Wow, we've just sung it and all that. So I just played it to my grandmom, and they never reacted anything. So I just left it there. Then my urge to uh, make songs started by that this activity of hearing yourself and making something new, making those beats, making those sounds, crafting those sounds really interested me. It was like a game for me. I was so fascinated by all the sounds that I heard. So I was just sitting around with my computer, with my headphones. That computer was also like one age-old computer. You can't really have, four tracks also. When I put the third track, it'll restart. It's that sort of a computer that is. So with that, like with minimal resources around, make the maximum, juice out of it. Is what was my mantra even till today. So I just tried to make whatever I was possible, whatever it was possible to make by me back then in terms of making music. So it was like an exercise for me to make songs basically. And that's when I was so hungry looking around for things, and someone suggested, see, there's this poem behind the, because when you start making music or inclining yourself into music, people around you will also start feeling good about it. Or maybe, hey, this boy is doing something different than the kids that do something during that age, like my relatives or like my close relatives, uncles and aunts. And some of them thought it's just something that I'm playing with. Some of them really suggested, by someone from my uncle aunt only suggested me, saying, see, there is also, why don't you put words to your music? See, you don't have to struggle. There is this poem that comes every week in Varamalar. And I just started making that those poems into songs, and it'll be played to my college mates, and everybody will spit on it. And yeah. So for me, just making that, exporting it, and seeing your file name in your phone, the song that you made in your phone, and you're actually listening to it, was like a win moment every day. So that became like a habit for me. Something that was fascinating is now becoming like a normal, usual thing. So that's how I think I started composing. So it was composing and producing together. That's how I started. Uh, yeah, I think that was my starting point.
So you're saying that, a lot of your composing and kind of producing journey started in that break after high school, after 12th, and before
Yeah.
college. But I heard in another interview that you were quite sure about wanting to be a musician by the time you were around in your 10th grade.
Yeah.
So at this point, like, did you know what you want to do in music, or was it just like, I love music, I want to do something in this space?
See, I really liked music because the rhythm, attraction, everything happened during my 7th or 8th grade. So I was this guy who used to make beats on the desks that were located for you in the school. So everybody gathers around, and I start playing beats, and they start dancing. And so like it's a huge fascination for me even till today. Whenever I see like a desk, I just rub on it and really like the surface. I'll try to beat on this. Oh, this is nice, Sonny. I'll try to play a beat on it. So that's when it hit me. Someone, I think my friend's sister, she was way elder, so she asked, because we used to visit that one friend's home, the terrace. That's where we assemble after school, and we used to talk, and go back home. So that was in my ninth standard when all like some 8 of us were there, and my friend's sister was also there, and she asked, "Who do you want to become? Who do you want to become? Who do you want to become?" And I was like, "I want to become a music director." It was just something totally random, because that's something I found new and also fascinating back then. Back then it was quite new for me, so I was quite fascinated by that, and quite attracted by that. So I never knew what a career was, to be frank. I was so dumb back then. It was something that, what to say, it just makes you feel happy by making the music and making those impressing the people around you. Getting their attention was something that was so making me happy. And I think that was the time that I myself forgot about mentioning to her that I want to become a music director and all that. After 2-3 days, my friend comes and tells me, you know what, we never told anything that we want to become like that or like this, but you were the only one to say that you want to become a music director. And my sister is scolding me, look at Bharat, he is now very clear that he wants to become a music director. Why aren't you so clear? You should make sure that you have an aim in your life and all. Sister started scolding that fellow, it seems. So So I thought, okay, I never knew that something like this would. I just simply said no, that and I forgot. And like I mean, it was just like a very blind way of expressing. It was just at that moment. But eventually, I had to step into this groove of making sure that I get a job, and I sort of relieve the pressure on my dad's shoulders so that he gets some time off from his work and make his art maybe. But that never happened. I never got a job, but he's happy now. And anyway, so that's how clear I was in the ninth grade when I told that I want to become a music director to my friend's sister. But you cannot say that I was so clear or even so clear about anything else also. Like it was just a very playful time for me to spend time with my friends and go to school and play volleyball and cricket, and also play keyboard when you come back home, take your computer, play GTA, Road Rash, and everything at the same time. Also make some music in the night, and it was like that for me. It eventually sort of made sure that I should definitely try out making music as my career, because very strongly I felt that in one point of my life, and I had to choose either this or that, and I wanted to choose this, and I chose this. But that was very late.
As you're speaking, I'm kind of just drawing parallels between, your journey and kind of my own journey, even though I'm not
Okay.
a full-time musician now. But it's funny because we had this back when I was in elementary school, so I was like 6 years old.
Okay.
We had this kind of we used to have this yearbook, basically
Okay.
like pictures of everyone in the school kind of thing. And for right next to our class picture, they asked all of the students what you want to be when you grow up.
Okay.
So everyone's answers were there, and everyone said, astronaut, basketball player,
Okay.
whatever. I said music director, and
Oh, okay.
in Japan, the concept of a music director doesn't exist. But I
Yeah, yeah.
didn't know better because I only listened to Tamil songs. So
Okay.
everyone's like, "What the heck are you talking about?"
Okay. Okay. Okay.
So my answer wasn't quite met with the same enthusiasm that your answer was, but but that aside, so you were talking about, how you were set on wanting to do music and,
Yeah.
you knew that this was what you wanted to do.
Yeah.
I find it interesting, kind of considering that alongside you were saying when you first started composing, as with
Yeah.
anyone, the first works you do won't be the best, right? It takes a lot of time, it takes a lot of practice, and it didn't seem like the people around you, like you said jokingly that people spit on your music, but was there that encouragement? Or did you ever have moments where you were like, is this for me kind of thing?
No, it was also not encouraging at the same time, but it was not like something I was doubtful on. It was something that was like it. I should not say that. I'll not lie. I'll not say that it never affected me and all that. For me, the fact of making a song was something great. Then making a great song was something else. But
Mhm.
at least making that the process, these guys who never knew about me making music at my home, how can they just tell me that my song is bad and all that, is what I used to think back then. So for me, just that being one among them, at the same time I'm making a song and we are able to listen on a headphone and it's playing through my phone, that was like a huge task for me. So uh, I used to think that okay, these guys never understand anything like that. But at the same time, it was not so easy going on me. Also, I was trying to figure out, because I knew for a fact that I'm still figuring out, right? So I wanted to always make better things and get into proper, learn a lot of stuff whichever was available to me and all that. So that was not an encouragement. At the same time, it was not something that was taken as what to say. My life is gone and all that. Is it something that really want to do or anything like that? It was not like that, and it was also not like an encouragement or like a motivation where, mark my words, I'll make a great song one day and show it to you guys. Is what that also never happened, and this also never happened. It was just like a passing cloud. I just had to step on the other step in the staircase, and I just kept moving. That's all.
When you were talking about, listening to different types of music, you mentioned earlier on that there was this, SS Music segment where they'd show indie music and English music and things like that. When I listen to your music today, as I alluded to in the introduction, there's so many different genres that are covered, and
Okay.
it leads to a really unique sound. But is that kind of, I guess, habit of listening to lots of different types of music something that came from your childhood or something that came much later?
I really feel that it's from my childhood till now.
Oh,
Whatever attracts me definitely influences me and gets expressed in the art that I'm making. It's something that's unconscious, and I feel it's something really nice that a part of me, wa- you know, involuntarily, makes that sort of expression in the art that's being made. So I think it's a culmination of all the influences that I had listening. I had to listen from my childhood even till today, because you these days you never know what language a song, because you're accessible to all the songs around the world in all the countries. So you can just listen to anything and everything, and suddenly something grasps your ear. Then you get inspired by that, and that feeling you're trying to subconsciously translate into the music that you're making. Yeah. So it's I think everything has a season for me. So right now I'm listening to OK Computer by Radiohead. So that's like sort of every song is like sort of talking to me or something like that. I'm feeling that. It's after a long time I'm listening to an entire album on loop. And yeah, this one song, No Surprises, is like sort of like something that's really talking to me and all that. I always feel I get connected to such type of music, and right now I'm just going back to back, going on loop with that one particular album. And I'm pretty sure that feeling of listening to that album will definitely be expressed in the art that I'm making after this. So that's what I think is the answer for the question.
I remember I was talking to another composer, Girish Gopalakrishnan,
Okay.
um, and I was asking him about, listening to music as a full-time composer because, you're doing music the whole day and then you go home,
Mhm.
whether, you have the bandwidth to listen
Mhm.
to more music.
Okay.
How has your relationship with music changed once kind of music became your full-time thing? Or
Uh,
are you still able to listen to music as like just an admirer, as a
ye-
listener?
yes, I think that's a quality that I had to develop, because initially it was when we got into making music and all that, I started listening to songs in a very critical way, start to analyze things, and start to decipher, not just deciphering, also giving my opinions on things that was made in the song, and having my own opinions is what I'm saying. Giving my opinions, not giving having my own judgments and opinions on the things that was happening in a song and that particular lead or the tone or whatever. But then when I started writing my song and performing, an opening moment for me where everything just shattered in terms of there was no there was no judgment to any song that was made. There was no, I think it eventually developed for me, because I felt that when I was the previous version, 15 years ago or 10 years ago, uh, it was it was too critical and analytic, or being around professionals, or learned people and all that. So yeah, so being around with learned people and all that, but later I felt being an admirer to music is more free. It made me more free. I just realized after doing it, it was not like a conscious thing overnight. I had to develop, and for me, not being aware of being someone like that and being someone like this is something that is fascinating to me, because I was not aware that I am being too technical and critical about everything I listen to. At the same time, now I am sort of more of an audience, because of that detachment that I have towards whatever I'm making, and with other composers who make songs. And that's why I said, like, you can listen to any song, you don't even need to know the language, it'll just talk to you. So for me to, I think that's the noble quality that every artist or every musician needs to develop, where you just free yourself from all the what to say. Like I know a few people where they, when you play a song, they just can't listen at all. They'll just be very, what to say, very
Judgy.
unsettling and not judgy. Like they'll go back to the previous, like it would, the songs for 3 minutes, it would have played for 20-30 seconds, and we can see that they are getting restless.
Oh.
And sometimes when you're close friends, they just go back to the 10th second of the song. Hey, this one, no, this tone here, like that. It is not actually made for that. It is made for that 3 minutes. It has to take you in a trip. If it's not taking you in a trip, then fine. But you should let it take you over. Basically, you should let the art take you over. So I was always inhibiting that without my knowledge. But eventually, it opened and shattered all the walls around me, and now I'm as free as when I was born. Basically, I can consume any art, anything. But as you said, when you work too much in terms of films and projects and recordings and all that, sometimes you don't want to listen to a lot of music. I mean, not a lot of music. Like sometimes you would like to just sit around peacefully without any noise. That's only because of the ear fatigue and the brain fry that happens, deadlines and all that. But I have always found my peace only in music, going back to music. Like I've thought to myself, like you said, that I've thought to myself, okay, I think enough. Let's just not listen to anything for another half a day or something like that. But it kept increasing, and I didn't listen to I didn't make music for 2-3 days, and then I started meeting friends and meeting people. When I go there, it's normal for them to meet me. It was not normal for me to meet them because I was always engulfed inside my studio and all that. So when I met my friends, they're also musicians, obviously, but they are not, sitting inside the studio full time, and they are quite. They were going around all around the place and all that. So when I went, eventually, when I met those guys, they start to play something that they've liked, some new music that they want me to listen to. Like they would have picked and they would be waiting. Maybe they would have thought that, okay, I like this kind of music, so I'll definitely put it to Bharat and all that. So when I go there, it'll be played to me, and that's when I realize that actually this is what I get my peace in. If I if really because my guys, they know, we've been together for like 15 years, more than 15 years. So we all know our taste, and these days there is nothing called a taste for any of us because we like everything. This is literal. We like everything, but there'll be something that's peculiar or unique, or the sound or something technically, and that would amaze all of us. So that would be something that would be played, and that's the moment that I realized that being in silence is okay, but you should definitely listen to music is making me more peaceful and all that. So that's how I deal with, and I've always found my peace when I listen back to music.
You're talking about, liking all types of music, and I can definitely see that reflected in the music you make as well. But
Mm.
there's a particular genre which I've kind of seen pop up a lot associated with you, not necessarily in your compositions like all of them, but you've mentioned it in interviews, and that's your fascination with blues. You've
Okay.
mentioned blues, there's like blues solo stuff on your Instagram, one or two, piano snippets.
Yeah, yeah,
You mentioned in an interview that Oscar Peterson was like one of your big musical heroes, and that threw me off because the typical answers are Rahman sir, Raja sir, and maybe
yeah,
some
yeah.
of the big pop stars, and then you pop up with Oscar Peterson. I was like, whoa! But where did that come from? Was there
So,
like a specific I guess
yeah,
catalyst for that?
yeah. Obviously, because like you said, I was also exposed only to film music. That's why in my ninth grade, I was without any hesitation said that I wanted to become a music director because that's the only thing that I could think of. Because we are making music, you should become a music director. That's how the system was. I never knew anything apart from that. eventually, in I think 2012 or some time back, 2011 or after completing college or even before that, I remember all my friends around, the good guys, they listened to a lot of hip hop and R&B and stuff like that. They used to play me a lot of Neo, Bruno Mars, and I never used to like any of that only because it being in English. I always used to refuse because I wanted to always listen to Tamil songs and not even Hindi songs. So if you sing or hear English or Hindi, I'll start either making fun of you, or I'll just leave that place or anything like something like that. Something that I don't approve of. Like I was so childish back then. So this my friend of mine had a car. He was the only one who had a car in our gang. So he used to bring his car, and we used to listen to all the stuff that we made in our home. Like I used to get a pen drive with the song, and I used to connect to his car stereo system, and we used to listen. Then he brings his car to my home. To He's also a singer. He brings his car. He picks me up from my place to his place. That's around, I think, about 15 kilometers, 20 kilometers. That's quite a ride. So he starts playing all the English songs, and I never used to like it. I always try to argue with him. Hey, are you going to switch it off or not? then then eventually I started feeling quite insecure because everyone around me knew every. It was like having all the ardent Hollywood fans around where you don't know even a single actor's name. It was like that. Okay, I like the music, but I don't know anybody. Is what my this thing was. But I really wanted to know. I really wanted to listen to English music, English songs, basically, like all the genre, pop, rock, hip hop, everything. Like I was really curious about that, and I remember I messaged one of my friends on Facebook on one fine day and asked him, "Hey, to start off with English songs, what do you think would be the artist that I should listen to? Who do you think the artist that I should listen to for the beginner stage?" And he suggested me like on 10 bands, artists, like start off with them, and then I'll give it to you. I'll tell other names you search off, and you listen to them and all that. And I was typing, copying those names and pasting it on YouTube and trying to listen, and I never really liked most of them. So it was all the iconic bands and artists that he sent me, and it never, like, I never had any. I was trying to force myself grooving and listening to what they are singing and all that, because our way of consuming songs was different back then with me. When you listen to film songs, it's different. When you listen to these songs, I was not at all this open guy or open for change or looking for variety and all. So it was quite hard for me. But then what happened eventually was Oscar Peterson grabbed my eye. From there, it was one. I just caught hold of his hand and entered into the world of blues. Is what I always think myself, because I was never having this flair to at least appreciate good music, but it was his music and his sort of way of playing the piano really grabbed my ear, and I was in a split second into the world, and I started liking it, and I started listening back to back. Then I remember one of my friends left his pen drive at my home. I remember I told you this car, the guy with the car, uh, his pen drive. He gives the pen drive to copy my songs and plays in his car stereo. So one fine day he missed the pen drive at my home, and he went off. So that pen drive had all the US Billboard country top 50 songs and country music, and Bob Marley's albums, and Oscar Peterson's the Night Train, Oscar Peterson Trio's album, and who else? Bruno Mars, few of Bruno Mars songs, and so and some French artists, some French songs which I till now don't know the name exactly how to pronounce and all that. But that was my entire IQ of listening to English songs. That one pen drive with those songs. So I started listening to Bob Marley in between my vacation and all that. Every day I used to listen to Bob Marley, and slowly started understanding what the singer is singing. It's the English that we know. It's the English that I know, that I've been in education with. I can talk in English properly. I should not be aversive to it. Let me just hear out what is being said. And I like got myself opened up uh, with Bob Marley and Oscar Peterson and Chopin. I really liked Chopin because, like I said, no, every song, like No Surprises, Radiohead, the feeling that I'm getting when I listen to the song, it's talking to you. That sort of a feeling. I got it when I heard Chopin. It was like our Tamil guy, நம்ம பையன் அந்த மாதிரி. Someone is playing in front of me, is talking to me like that. So I really liked Chopin and Oscar Peterson. Oscar Peterson was effortless. I never thought piano could make such sounds, but it's not the piano, it's his hands that's making those sounds. So that was quite fascinating because I was also a performer, right? So with my college band and all that. So I wanted to play solos and all that. And Oscar Peterson was quite inviting into that world of playing a solo and all that. And that's how I started listening to Oscar Peterson a lot.
You mentioned college bands, and we'll talk about Urka in a second because that's like the main band you were part of that's still active till date. But I'm aware that there were a few other bands that you were in. What was your band journey like? How did you kind of get into that world, and what were the kind of types of music you were playing in your college bands?
It was covers,
Hmm.
Tamil film song covers. So just like the Dolak Dolki story, my college band also, I was in this fashion show team.
Where did that come from?
So
But carry on.
yeah, because I remember we did one ramp walk with like when I was a kid. So
Where's
then
that video? We need to find it.
so, when someone asked like announcements will be made when you're in first year, like these are the events, I'll just give my names and all the events that's there. Uh, Except when it comes to something too brainy like a chemistry olympiad or a max olympiad. Apart from that, every extracurricular activity like elocution, mono acting, drama,
What's
any
mono acting? Is that just acting alone?
yeah, you act like two three different characters, but you are the only character to enact that in front of a judge or schools.
Interesting. Okay, okay.
It's a normal thing here. In schools, they have these events. So the same way the colleges also have these events. So for that to happen, there'll be houses that will be split up inside your college, and you'll be put up in one of the teams. And inside those teams, there'll be like intra-college culturals happening. Like each house will participate in these events and sports activities. And finally, there'll be one trophy for everything together. So I was in this fashion show team, and I also was in the music team. I gave me a name for music and all that. So music auditions came, fashion show auditions came. I got selected in the fashion show audience. Music, there was no team at all. There was nobody except myself and one more guy. So eventually there were three more singers who came in, but I was the one who had the keyboard. The other guy never had a keyboard. He was from North India, so he said I can play on your keyboard if you don't mind. I said okay, you can play. But it was this auditions. I was sort of getting insecure that what if I don't get to play the keyboard and all that. But finally, that guy never turned up on the day of audition, so I was selected. So eventually, that was the meeting where I met the like-minded people like me, like who wanted to participate in music from other houses, right? There'll be a drummer, there'll be a guitarist, and those people together we formed a band for the entire college, and we started performing in different cultural events outside the college, outside the city, outside the town, and all that. So that's when that way there was this other guy who was having a huge Yamaha keyboard, and that made sounds like incredible tones. So he was obviously the keyboardist, and we were running short for a drummer. I said I can play drums, but I've never played drums. So, but I was the drummer of the college. I used to get sort of learn the notes and chords of the songs that we are going to perform. I'll be instructing the keyboardist to play all these patterns that I figured out from listening to the songs, and he'd be the one telling me, "Hey, this is C major, that's A minor, this is A flat major," and all that. He'll be the one who will be deciphering all those patterns of my fingers, and so we'll note down the chords, and I'll go and I'll start playing the drums for those songs. So that was my college band. But what happens is my college band never had a bass guitarist. So it was just some four guys. It was a singer, keyboardist, drummer, and a guitarist. So we never got the first place in any of the cultures that we went, but we always make sure that we get the third place without having a bass guitarist, because we used to do our own compositions. We perform our own compositions. So that will basically the songs that I write when I go back home with the Varamuller thing, or with something random words that I make that make little sense, and that will be I'll play that in front of my band, and they'll ask for the chords, and I'll give the chords. I'll go on the drums, the singer will sing, and sometimes we try to compose things together. Why we make those own compositions is because 5 marks will be given extra wherever you go and perform your own composition, because you don't have a bass guitarist. And that's how we used to win third place at least wherever we go. So among the college circuit for the 4 years, our own comps sort of became popular among the other college teams, because they know for every culturals these teams are only going to come. We also know them, they also know us. Everywhere it will be tough competition for the first two places. Third place we'll only be the third place everywhere we go, because of the extra marks that we get by performing our own songs. So that was a college journey. So these guys who know music theory and who learned music were able to guide me in understanding why it's why, like, I started understanding myself why it's C major. If I place the same pattern in a different note, it's playing D minor. So why is it minor? Why is it major? All those questions started popping up in my head, and I started my own language of understanding music.
So you were able to kind of come up with these compositions and even play them in a band,
Yeah.
even before you had a concrete understanding of, what chords were, or,
Yeah.
what sheet music looked like, or things like that.
Yeah.
That's
So
fascinating.
so when I know that these are the oh, this is C major, that's A minor.
Mm.
When I go back home and I do the same thing, like, okay, let's play C major. I play C major. Let's play D minor. Hey, we played that chord there. How are we going to name this? Then, oh, I think it's A minor, because it's A, E, and C is there, so it's A minor. C A minor is having a sad tone. C A major is having a happy tone. Like that only I figured out. So I go back home and I figure out these chords. So when I'm in the process of figuring out, there will be one more melody that will coming that will pop up in my head. I'll make that into a new song. It's a weird story. Then I can understand when I when I tell.
I mean, it's not weird. It's incredible because like in the process of say again, like what's driving this whole thing is just curiosity and just complete lack of judgment of yourself, right? Just kind of letting yourself free and just exploring. And
Yeah,
in the process of discovering just like theory, you're stimulating your own creativity, which is like really interesting because, some people talk about, if you spend all this time learning theory, it kind of closes your mind. But I think because you already started with this openness,
yeah, yeah, yeah,
learning theory just became an additional source of
yeah.
creativity or just an additional way to think about music.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It was along the process, like many things together: production, theory, sort of writing lyrics for the songs, because I was making music, and I was waiting for someone to come and write lyrics. Eventually, that person never made, and I was waiting, 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 and one fine day, suddenly one urge happens, like always, and I start writing, and that was my song. That's all. So I was never dependent on someone to come and make the song. So basically, everything was there. We had to sit and write. So I started writing, and that's how I started making, like, writing songs. So during that writing process, there'll be obviously music theory that I'd be, something that I would have figured out myself, in terms of technical music theory related things, and like chords and production techniques and making it sound better, EQing, reverb, delay, mixing, mastering, compression. So because it's a process of writing lyrics, making a melody, or making a melody, writing lyrics, and you have a mic in front of your computer, you sing and you record. For you to sing and record, you need to make a bed of music that contains, bass, some chords, some rhythm or beat or anything. So you start conceiving your song as a song that you hear after you produce. So you write the melody, write lyrics, then work on the arrangement, sing, and then export it and listen. Because recording, after recording, you EQ your voice, EQ the guitar that you've put there. You would have heard this sort of a tone somewhere, and you want to sort of replicate that here and make it unique and put a filter on it, and just middling around with that will give you a lot of knowledge of something else that you never wanted to even learn, or something that you never was even aware of, and all that. Then later on came the process of mixing and mastering, which I never knew that there is something called mixing and mastering. I used to just export tracks out of my thing, and then there's something called mixing. Oh, what is mastering then? Like that. It was so amateur when I say it, but it was quite what to say, quite a revealing journey for me to understand these things. But I always feel that if there was someone who was there with me along to discuss these things, or some resource of like a person or a teacher or a friend, it would have ignited a lot more things in me. Is what I've always thought, because music conversations were never, it was a scarcity for me back then, because there was nobody around me at home or friends making music or anything into music as well. So it was only college, and other two after college hours, the music band that I was a part of, where you can talk about music and chords and bass lines and things like that.
Yeah, and you mentioned, having people to talk about with regards to music and not having that at a point in your life. You
Yeah,
definitely had a group of people to do that once Urka formed.
yeah,
Urka is a short form of Urkage, which
yes,
was a surprise to me when I first heard that as well, because I just assumed that, your group suddenly really liked Urka and, just decided to name your band off that. But no, it had a, much kind of bigger meaning, as in, for the people. It's a
yeah,
rock band,
uh,
um, for the people. Was
yeah.
there something about rock music which you felt like would be kind of connecting for the people? Was there a reason you chose that genre, or was it just kind of the natural way things panned out?
Yeah. See, for me, I don't really approve of a song being in one genre or something, because
Fair.
for me, that itself is something that I have never found logical reasoning behind. Naming it. Maybe for the tagging and labeling purpose, they would use such genres, but for me, every song is many genres put together. So in terms of being a rock band, it was not just the music, it was the attitude of the entire band that we wanted to make it as rock. So I never knew that I was making rock music. It was my bandmates who mentioned that it's rock,
Oh,
because
oh,
because even they were like not into listening to songs in specific genres. So the attitude was rock, is what they said, and we just named it as Tamil rock band, because all the songs, obviously my guitarist and drummer were a part of metal bands, rock bands, and they are still a part of scrat, playing rock music, garage rock and all that. And so their influence and my way of writing and arranging a song together came in and made Urka. So even in Urka, there, like if you listen to the 9-track album that we released in 2016, every song will be different, because it's not into one particular genre. That's something that we never did it consciously. That's naturally something that happened. That's the same way how I approach every film also, because it's good to have a sound, but not one particular genre of music. Like, there's, I don't believe in that concept of a genre at all, because genres are, yes, there are genres, like you can categorize songs like that, but musically I don't think, if you listen to Ennavale Adi Ennavale from Kadalan, what do you call the genre as?
oh.
I'm clueless with that. Maybe someone will say semi classical, but that is not something that is semi classical.
That's
It's
a term people just made up. Yeah.
classical or not. Uh, it's something modern. It's something that we
Hmm.
like. I don't want to put it inside a box of
Fair.
naming it as a genre. So for me, I'm saying personally, Tamil rock band. Why I call Urka as Tamil rock band is because of the attitude that the approach that we make towards music and the ideology behind the band of it's for the people. The songs are for the people. It's for every individual out there. So I was told that this is how rock music is. It's for the people. It moves people and all that. So the attitude is the most important. So let's keep it as a Tamil rock band, all that. Yeah. So that's the correlation that I have with Urka's Tamil rock tag.
Yeah, and you were mentioning how, in Urka's album, that nine-song album, each song kind of explores a different sound and a different soundscape. Just that one ending bit, I believe in Kaliyugam,
Yeah.
where you just go full into like, I guess, a metal style
Yeah.
sound where you just
Yeah.
have
Yeah.
like people screaming.
Yeah. That was my
Who
drummer.
is that? Is
Who's-
that you? Who's
No, that's my drummer Tapas who's screaming. He screams that part every stage that we perform Kalyugam. Because that came something that just came out of involuntary. It just came without his knowledge. When we were playing Kalyugam and when I was sort of explaining why this song is and what this song talks about and all that. With the end part, everybody wanted to go into like full on mode. We just make it like full heavy and all that, and we started playing. At one point, he just screamed, and we recorded that. That's all. That 9-track album is something we never overdubbed it. It was just one performance together. That was like start to end, 45 minutes.
really? Oh,
Yeah.
wow.
It was
So
just the vocals
everything
that was
was
dubbed.
live recorded together.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Oh, wow. Okay. I thought it would have been, each part done separately
No, 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 no,
and
no. It was inside the same room. All of us played together. It was recorded together, and vocals was overdubbed, obviously, to minimize
uh-huh.
the reflections coming from the drums and everything. I had to sing again, but I did sing, and we played together and recorded that album.
Wow, that's super cool. And
Yeah,
for that to come out so cleanly, I think is really cool on its own as well.
I should thank.
Never mind the quality of the songs, which is also brilliant.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, obviously, we could have nailed the quality, but we haven't. I can see that from the first album, but the energy is still there. Is what we wanted to keep that intact. So I'd like to thank Rahul Ramachandran, who was the recording engineer of the album in Mumbai, and also R.K. Sundar for mixing and mastering the album. These guys, they came out of nowhere and they were a part of our band along the journey, and they never expected anything monetarily. Also, like they were not doing it for something materialistic. We all knew that it was just that the pure feeling of being together and making music together, and helping us and sorting things around. And like to give a shout out to Rahul and RK Sundar sir for this.
Yeah, and you were talking about, Urka being for the people, and I know that your band, you kind of went along and tour is a weird word because it's not like you booked stages in your early days and you performed. It was more like you just kind of sat along the road and just
Yeah,
played your songs.
yeah,
If I
yeah, yeah.
if I understand that correctly. What was that
Yeah.
like? What was the
So,
kind of intent behind that and what was the experience like?
so, like the conversation that we are having right now, right? We used to
Mhm.
have it every time, every day, sitting and talking about music and being art, making art, artists, music, films. We had this group of like some 12 people in a place where my friends stayed, and like everybody just walks in and walks out of that place. All the friends meet up there. It was like that meeting place where it had like 7 guitars broken, 3 cajones, and one small keyboard and lying around in the room. So that was like one creative place where everything just exploded for all of us, because we never had any worry in life. Thanks to my parents, I had food and I had clothes, so I didn't have to bother about anything. And the same case with other people. So just like I mentioned in the beginning, if you can remember, I was telling about my dad being not luxurious enough to make this or think about making his art as a career. I was luxurious enough to explore these things only because of the struggle that they went through
Right.
to put myself in this place. So I utilized sort of that place, and we had musical conversations and creative discussions and jamming things happening, and that's when it just exploded, and we just thought like music is for the people. There should not be anything that's controlling that channel in between. So how do you reach the root? How do you reach the people who can't reach you is what the question that we had ourselves. So how will the music reach to someone who doesn't have a smartphone? How will the music reach to someone who doesn't come to a bar? How will your music reach to someone who cannot buy a music festival ticket? How will your music reach to someone who cannot afford movies? So we just went to them and played directly.
That's interesting. Trying to kind of make connections between, what you're talking about now and kind of other things you've done.
Mhm.
When listening to the songs of like, Maviren or Mandela or Amu or whatnot, I've
Mhm.
noticed that, I mean, Mandela's a bit different, we'll talk about that in a bit. You went to like Madagascar and you found artists there. That's slightly separate. But I know even like in like Maviren, you used a lot of like kind of rural percussion and you had that one in wind instrument in the boat fight song.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Are
yeah, yeah.
these kind of, especially like a lot of the more rare instruments that you wouldn't hear all the time, are these kind of sounds you picked up while you were exploring with Urka
No, because
or not so much?
no, I mean, in terms of Udka, we are still experimenting with the sounds that we're making because
Hmm,
we're so engrossed with the music and the arrangement. We still not crafted the sound that we have in our heads.
right.
But in terms of film music, I get a lot of time to sit and make the sounds.
Hmm,
So
hmm.
whatever interesting comes up, I'm always game for experimenting that. So the boat fight song that you mentioned, it was the rhythm that was made first. It was those sounds that was made first, and then it was made into a song. Like the same way, there's a music that comes in the climax of Maviran during the fight
Yeah.
thing. So that was also in the same session. The same person only played. Whoever played for both fight. So I know I need to make a soundtrack for that particular fight sequence. So I found one instrument on YouTube and I was figuring out if that is available with this person, and he had it. And I asked about the history and why is it being played, where all it's being played and all that. And he told me about those. That instrument is called Timri Melam.
Hmm, hmm,
Uh,
hmm. That's the percussion, right?
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Right.
That's the percussion. So we've heard a lot of Periyamelam and all that in the recent days, but this Timri sound is something that was unique, and so I thought I'll start off with a Timri and see if it's working and all that. So that was eventually made into sort of a psytrance song in the psytrance soundtrack in the end fight. It was not a psytrance thing, but it was something like house psy type of thing. But when it comes to boat fight, it was I made the percussions, and I was looking for something that's like I was looking for like a conch kind of a sound. So I told him just his name is Sound Money. He's a very young percussion and wind instrument player, like a traditional Tamil instrument player. He just brought whatever stuff that he could get from his car. So he just lined up all the instruments before recording. I just made him play each and everything, and I really liked these things and thought it'll go with the movie. So I recorded the conch, the wind instrument kind of a thing, over the beats that I've made. And after that, I came back and produced the song and then sang and all that. So that's something that's always fascinates me when it comes to movie projects, because you won't have this vision. I mean, I might not have this vision of recording this instrument of this sound if not for the for the film and for the scene. And that's the vision of Madhavan Ashwin, who's the director of the film. So I always get fascinated by how we are contributing to someone's vision yet making our own thing that we like, but at the same time it's made for the film's it's made for the film and for the director's vision, because he's the one who's had this vision of the entire film before even it's being written. So it's so fascinating to, so cool to contribute to something like that. And if he can approve of me doing this, and he might not have even thought of having such a sound in that particular place. Even I never would have thought if I was not making music for Maviran. But the thing that fascinates me so much about making music for films is this, that you can do any sort of experiments and any sort of collaboration that you sometimes won't think when you do it by yourself. Obviously, when you do it by yourself, you do a lot of things. You also collaborate with a lot of stuff, but the unknown, no, doing something for something else, like someone else's vision that you're contributing, and if it's going hand in hand, the output together, when you see a visual and the music together, because I don't make films, my experience is only auditory. But when I see visual and sound together, and the music that we made is fitting with the scene and sound and all that, no, it's so fascinating for me. That's why cinema is so fascinating for me.
When you're talking about, exploring different sounds for films that you do, the best example of that for me pops up in Mandela,
Mm.
because you went to Madagascar, met this family of musicians, I believe,
Yeah, 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 yeah.
and then that kind of led to the song Yaino.
Yeah,
I don't know if I'm pronouncing that correctly.
yeah, yeah,
But that's honestly one of my favorite songs of yours because it just has such a kind of fresh sound. And I remember when I first heard it, it just, even though it's not a very flashy song, it really kind of caught my attention
yeah. Okay,
immediately because I was like, wait, I've never quite heard something like this before, at least in a Tamil film.
okay.
Could you tell me a bit more about, that trip? Was it just Madagascar that you went to, or was it kind of like a larger exploration? And how did that exploration end up turning into songs for the film?
So, so just to start off with the entire story, it was 2018, I think. Maroon Ashwin came over, met me, narrated the script. We were okay, and the production was okay, and things started off well. And there was this huge gap, like for maybe like 7 months or 6 months in between. Then the film started rolling again, and the work started resuming, and that's when I started making music for the film. It was 2018 or 2019, I think, early 2019. So we got along in between, myself and the director, and we explored a lot of musical possibilities for the film and all that. And along the way, I had this chance of catching this movie called Guava Island,
Yeah.
Childish Gambino and Rihanna. So I was fascinated by the soundtrack. I was so inspired by the sounds that was in the soundtrack because it was very raw. I haven't heard or saw something like that before. So those it was like someone who is sitting right next to you and playing a small ukulele or guitar when you when you see the movie and listen to that soundtrack. So it was so like, it was not in a, what to say, not so sophisticated, but was very raw, was going so well with the movie. So I thought maybe we should definitely explore this possibility in Mandela, because Mandela is very raw movie. It's so intense and raw, and some it might work if we do something like this, is what I thought. But I tried to incorporate those elements in the soundtrack, but there was not like a full-fledged thing in the movie that is inspired me like Guava Island. So it all went through, and suddenly COVID happened, everything was on a pause, and I was scoring the movie halfway, and COVID happened, and I had to sit at home for a long, long, long time. And before COVID is when Madagascar happened for me, like 2019, in October 20, I think August, September. Yeah, August, September 2019. We were visiting my in-laws' friends there, basically. Uh,
Oh, okay. It was a
and
personal visit.
yeah,
I
and
see, I see. Okay.
they are a diplomat. So, so the local musicians, it was one evening was arranged for local music and things like that, and local musicians came over and played. The musicians who are of that region. So I played with them along, because I was also introduced there as a musician. So I played my songs and they played along with that, and they played their songs and I played along with that and all that. So it was one huge, very, very beautiful evening. After that, we had dinner, and I could talk to only one of them, one of those guys, because not many of them knew English. This
Mhm.
only person called Santa Rantrimajasowa, his name is. So
He's
he,
who eventually sang on the song, right?
yeah, 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 yeah. He's the one who
Yeah.
sang on. His mom also sang. His brothers played a few instruments, percussion. His dad wrote the lyrics of the song. because I really wanted the entire family to work on. I wanted to work with them. Basically, it was my pleasure to having them on board for a film. It was like not just a collaboration. It was definitely monetarily also satisfying for them, and I wanted to make sure that is also being done. When you think of musical collaboration, it's so exciting enough for you to just make the music, but if it's made for a film with a commercial purpose, it's definitely going to help them. Just from the art, apart from the excitement, there's also food that needs to be on the table. So I was so happy to have them, because many regions that we visited inside Madagascar had a lot of struggling people who were trying to make a life there, and being a musician is always tough. So I really wanted to somehow have the family and also sort of monetarily also compensate for the work that was being made there. For me, I have huge respects for the family of Santa, and uh, his dad and mom and everybody were kind enough and sweet enough to understand what I was making. And I just sent to Santa with that one guitar, dang, 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 that comes in the beginning of the song. And after that, I just randomly sang like, yeah, 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 yeah. Because it was COVID, we didn't have anything to do.
Right.
Just like how Mandela tribute happened in the song, where I was inspired by the actual Nelson Mandela, and I just made a track for Nelson Mandela.
Really?
I,
Okay.
yeah, I wrote the song, I recorded the song, produced the song, and sent it to Ashwin in 20 minutes. I finished everything. I sent it and I said, "See, you don't have. This is not for the movie. This is something that I thought I'll just share it with you." Is what I told him, and I had to catch the flight and went. Then he called me after a day and say, "See, this might fit in the film where where he is being beaten up and all that. There's definitely a very senti sequence there. If we put this motivational track, it'll definitely work, is what I think," is what he told, and he placed that song in the movie. There was no plan of having a song there in the movie. The same way, this song also happened to me, and I just sent to Ashwin and said, "See, I don't know. I just wanted to make uh, like a native African, the Malagasy folk music, local music, was so in sync with the folk of our land.
Mm.
So I really liked their music, and I wanted to sort of bring that flavor into whatever I am making. So I just did this track. I have sent it to the person, my friend in Madagascar. I don't know if he'll do anything, but if he does something, it'll be great. Then Santa sends me with all the harmonies and everything put together, and he breaks down my phrasings of the tune melody that I had sung, not the random melody that I had sung. I kept repeating, yeah, 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 yeah. If you see the initial track that I had sent to him, that would keep repeating after every what to say, every sequence of
Mm.
melody
Mm. Right.
that I had sent. So na 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 na, all those I would have sung, but after that, yeah, 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 it would be there. So he broke down and structured the entire this thing with the melody that I gave, and told me this can be the starting, this can be here, and this yeah, yeah, I can come here again, and then can be here and all that. And I said, please go ahead and do whatever you want. It's a collaborative thing. I won't be like stopping you from doing anything. If you feel like you need to do something, please do. But I'm so happy that you're on board and all that. And he sent me that song, and I was blown away. I sent it to Ashwin, and he immediately called and said, "What is this? What is this? So nice and all that." But where are we going to place this song? Is what both of us were having the discussion on. And then we figured end credits would be the best part to place this song, because it's sort of like giving you a very calm feel, very warm when you listen to the track. So maybe after the completion, after people getting united together, after the name card is being shown, then for the rolling credits, this can be the song, is what we thought. All this we thought the movie is going to release in the theater. That's why
Mm.
we kept this as the end credits. But when you watch a movie on OTT, end credits will be skipped by saying "Watch next." But I was happy that this song was made, and I had Santa's help in Mahavir, and also find musicians from Cuba, and write a song or something. But it was later on decided to not to have a song there. But I wanted to explore the possibility of having Cuban music in the initial parts of the movie. It's still there,
Mm.
but without voice,
Right, right.
because in the slums that are in Chennai are so identical in Cuba. The
I
lifestyle
see.
that I figured out by watching a documentary and the Cuban musical documentary. So I reached out to Santa and asked if he knew someone from Cuba, and because he was part of this one beat program where all the artists meet together from all the countries. He put me in touch with someone in Cuba and I got in touch with someone from Cuba as a singer songwriter, and trumpets, guitar, and everything was recorded in Cuba and sent it to me. Yeah, but the slum portion that we show, I mean, their housing situation would be poor. In the living conditions will be poor wherever they were living initially in the
Mm.
movie, and eventually they would go to this tall building.
Right.
So that portion was trimmed. It was made less so that the movie could get into the story even more quicker. So
Mm,
that
mm.
so we never wanted to place that song. Initially, I just thought we'll make a song and see if it's going to fit. The song would have fit if the story would have happened in the initial household itself, housing
Mm,
condition
mm.
itself. Then it had to shift to the other place to make the actual main story to begin. So we
Right.
had to trim that portion, and I myself told that let's not have a song there. So yeah, that was the Madagascar trip, and that was Santa.
You were saying how Santa helped you kind of gain that connection to the musician from Cuba. Was it Santa who also introduced you to was it Musa Mashian
No, no,
who
no.
sang
That
in
was a different story. Ella Mandela.
yeah, what's that story?
So with Urka, we performed in this India Music Exchange festival and conference kind of a thing that happens in Chennai every year. Used to happen. I don't know if it happened this year, but it used to happen. It happened in a hotel for 2 days, and one of those days, one night, it was Urka that was supposed to perform there. And on the same day at 5 p.m., it was Musa's performance in the lobby, in the acoustic stage, and 9 p.m. it was the main stage where Urka performed. So we had a sound check at the same time when Musa was performing. So all of us actually saw and got so inspired, and it blew us. Musa performed with this just a looper pedal and a guitar with a lot of stickers on his guitar, and single guy with making percussion sounds and then singing, playing guitar and then singing on top of it. That's He sings English, but it's so nice to hear. The voice of his is so good. So that happened, and we never even went and spoke to Musa because we had a sound check. We had to go. This was 2018.
Mhm.
Then 2019, 2020 is when Yano happened. But 2020 2019 is when I heard Mandela script and I started making Ela Mandela. I thought before making Ela Mandela, I thought we'll have to have one African influence, South African influence in the music because of Mandela being
Right.
because the movie being named as Mandela. So I started researching on those sounds and collecting libraries and samples and all that, and then suddenly it occurred to me that hey, we did see someone from South Africa here in India, so why don't we just reach out to him? How do we reach out? So I figured we would be tagged in the same poster as his because it's the same poster that said both of our names. I went
Right.
back to that poster, got his name, searched on Facebook, got his number, emailed him, got his number, and then spoke to him and told him I'm doing a movie. I saw you there a year back and all that. And that's how the connection happened.
So you didn't even speak to him. You had no plans of like necessarily wanting to work with him. It was just this serendipitous
Yeah,
idea where you were like, "Hey, I
yeah,
remember, you know,
yeah,
wow." That's really cool. So many like great parts of your music. You were talking about how the boat theme idea kind of came
yeah,
serendipitously as well. It's just the player kind of trying a bunch of instruments and then
yeah,
this one sound just seemed to fit in. And
yeah.
then in this case, the idea to bring Musa in was also just very much a kind of spur of the moment kind of thing.
Yeah.
That's really interesting. when we're talking about kind of choosing instrumentalists and kind of arrangement and how you go about that,
Mhm.
there's something in your music that really sticks out to me. And I think it really kind of occurred to me first when I heard Sina Sina. And that's so when Sina Sina first came out, or was coming out, the promos were all out. It was a Shiwakatkin film, Anirudh is singing. I think there's a certain image that people kind of develop when you see those kind of names because of the previous songs associated with those
Yeah,
names. Think of songs like, I don't know, Karta Walang Kalijam or
yeah, yeah,
Alma Dolma, different actor, but same sort of genre, same sort of situation.
yeah, yeah,
And then pops up Sina Sina. It's
yeah,
this kind of retro, very
yeah,
simple beat, and then just a very kind of mild folk layer on top of it.
yeah.
And I found it very refreshing because, the image that I had of, what might come out is, four on the floor, hard kick drums, side chained synths, a very full sound, which is, great on its own. But this
Mhm,
was a very different approach. Was
mhm.
that intentional, or was it just kind of your interpretation of that genre or that sort of situation?
It's something that what came up for me, I would say. I was
Mm.
not really trying to make it sound so full and hard, because if you see towards the end of the song, no, just that one minute would be like
Right.
a bang, like a banger kind of a
Yeah.
sound. I consciously sort of made sure that I needed some space when I make, like, the song should breathe and it should have some space, is what I thought.
Mhm.
And it should also engulf I mean, very organically, in a way where it's not forced. When you listen to a retro kick and snare with the folk elements on it, it shouldn't look totally strange or something that's pasted there or something. It should go hand in hand, is what I thought. So only very little thought went into this. So initially it was just the beat. I never had the folk layer also. Then later on
Oh,
only I
okay.
added the folk layer. So it was not something that I was trying to do something totally different and trying to make something that's unique or anything like that. But my way of making, or perception towards making this sort of a song, was this, because I really like "Annatha Adira Rutiko Utiko Tennate Attarameyo." It had all the minors and majors, and
Mm.
it had its own melody, and also the same time you can dance for it, like all that was also there. And
Right.
so it was so rich in terms of melody. So my idea is to incorporate something, some sort of a flavor like that into Sina Sina. So
So that's when the Charname goes to
yeah,
major
yeah,
briefly, right?
yeah,
Da-na-na-na-na-na-na-na-na.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Huh.
Then again, goes there the same way. That was my approach for Sina Sina.
So it's really interesting because you were sort of starting smaller in order to give it space for the kind of bigger ending because
Yeah,
the ending is a bit more full.
yeah, yeah. Because see, the more impact doesn't have to be always full, even if it's
Mm,
deep. So it's impact. So doesn't have to, because these sort of songs should not tire you out when you listen to. It should not damage your ears. So I mean, because I am making something like this for the first time ever in a movie.
mm,
So I wanted to give it a twist, basically. At the same time, I also can make whatever I can make. I cannot make
mm.
something that's I am unable to, or something that I cannot make, something that I cannot replicate something that I heard some time back or anything like that. So for me, being original was the only I always tell to myself, or it just naturally occurs to me, of making original music or original sound or anything. Sometimes, like you said, there would be people who would have thought that this is not full, is not, hitting enough for me and all that. But there are always people who would have thought that, like you said, this is not something that I expected, something else. This is something new. Maybe I could listen to it and all that. Then eventually they get accustomed to it. So it's not something that consciously that I made to make it sound less fuller and give the impact in the end or anything like that. But the ending had to be there because I wanted to give it like one, because I also am a lover of dance folk songs. So I didn't have to I wanted to just break away from whatever was there until then in the song and give it like one full on thing. And I really liked, if there's actually an interesting story behind the arrangement of this, because this Muddy Waters song, right? I think
Mhm.
I was a what is that song? I was a village boy. What na part is it? There's this song by Muddy Waters. It's a very famous. Ta ta da da. And I was a boy. Ta ta da da. That's the format of this thing in blues, right? There is this
Okay.
ta ta da da. And I was a
Right.
little boy. Ta ta da da. I was da 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 da. It goes and it's like a
Yeah,
12-hour
yeah,
blues.
yeah.
After that, dan
Uh-huh.
dan 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 dan, like that goes, right?
Hmm.
So so I wanted to sort of incorporate that bluesy thing, ta ta da da, and after that there is a phrase of melody singing, and then after that ta ta da da. So the same way in Sina Sina, ta 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 காலம் வந்தாச்சு, ta ta ta
Ah,
கை மேல தந்தாச்சு, ta 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 கூற கொட்டாவும், ta கோல்டு கூடாரம் ஆயாச்சு, ta 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 ta. So that was the idea.
interesting. Wow, I didn't expect the blues to pop up there. Kind of going from that song to another song in Mavi, then perhaps my favorite song in all of your repertoire, and I think a favorite for a lot of people is Vavira. Um,
Okay.
which is why it was quite unbelievable to hear that potentially Vavira Strings was recorded, right after mine, I'll consider that an accomplishment.
Too much.
But Vavira's cool because I heard in another interview that the tune for Vavira was a kind of combination of two just indie song ideas that you had.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It was one indie song, but the other one was alternative for Vavira that I made.
Ah, okay.
So the alternative was named as Vavira because kept singing Vavira there, and the other alternative for the current Vavira's melody.
Mhm.
That's when it struck me. Why don't I combine the previous actual indie song with the Vavira chant and make it together as one song? Because this indie song, like I told you, there was this creative place where creative explosions happen with friends among us. It was written back then. It was 2014 or 15 somewhere. I wrote that song, or even, yeah, 14 to 15 is when I remember writing that song with the different lyrics. But after like halfway through the first verse of the song, it goes to a different. It was still incomplete. The song was. So when the director told me the script, and he said there should be a song that's like a story, that needs to narrate a story. He asked me if you have any reference or can you think of anything like that, and I said, see, I have myself a song that tells a story. It's a format like that, so maybe I'll sing, but I don't know if it's not I don't think it'll fit. But I sang it. He said, you record it and send it to me. I recorded and sent it. Then eventually I was trying to convince him to not to have that song and have something else more cinematic for that particular moment. So I composed something like that. But he listened to my alternative. He liked the alternative also, but he really wanted the previous one also. He was so convinced with that, and even I was also sort of wanting it, but at the same time, it didn't have that depth of Vavira in this alternative melody. So that's when both of us were sitting together in this studio, and immediately both of us just it occurred to both of us that why don't we just combine, and I just started singing and combined this Vavira chant into this, and it just happened. Yeah.
And how did the song because you were saying that the initial idea didn't seem cinematic enough, but the
Yeah.
final product is very cinematic. You've got obviously the Budapest Orchestra, you've got like a 40-person choir. Was
Yeah.
that just something that you put on top just to give it that grandeur?
Yeah.
Hmm.
So I really was fascinated by Jacob Collier collaborating with the Oquidalians or something, the name of the
Yes,
choir.
yes, yes.
I was blown away with that, and I really wanted a choir in my song. And this will be that moment in the movie where it's okay if you have 40 people sing also,
But
or even 200 people sing. So this would be my opportunity to use a choir in the song. So I wanted to make a choirish with orchestra kind of a song, also having a very simple melody, and that's also impactful and all that. So it helped me in making it cinematic, making it sound grand, and satisfying my wish of working with a choir and 60-piece orchestra. So initially, it was I was just playing two chords in the guitar that I knew back then. My friend taught me this is G and this is C, and I was just playing with that. And I just started singing like like a very country-ish kind of melody with the guitar. It's got its own beat. So it was made like that. But when I sat on the piano and made it like a stripped down version of it and made it not so pulsier, and made it little consumable by having space for orchestra and choir, it came out as this product. It came out as Vavira.
it's interesting they talk about, the only chords you knew back then were G and C, because that's kind of how the song starts, right? It's this vamp between G and it's C minor. It goes into minor, right?
Minor, and yeah, yeah, and then
Yeah,
back
but
to
like that sequence alone, even though it's so simple, it really like kind of pulls you into the song, or at least it pulled me. So I mean, yeah, if that's a kind of arrangement that came from, only knowing two chords, that's wonderful.
no, no, no. That was back then. It was not this intro. It was just
Okay.
having guitar and dun 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 dun. It was like that.
Hmm, 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 hmm.
Dun 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 dun. Like that it was.
Huh. It was much more upbeat.
Yeah,
Huh.
double time. Everything was double time. The rhythm
Right.
was double time. So when it was for Wavira, I needed an intro. It cannot be double time. The rhythm cannot be like this. So I played dun 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 like that, and that was made only for the movie. So during the movie, I knew more than two chords.
Yeah, I can tell. All right, yeah, we've talked a lot about, your work so far, your journey so far, and some of the films that you've worked on. We haven't touched on everything, but I've taken up a lot of your time already. So I want to kind of take a few minutes to look towards the future. Is there anything that you can share in terms of things that you're working on? Where is your curiosity driving you next?
So right now, obviously there are film projects, and apart from that, writing new songs with my band Urka. We are going to do like a residential recording kind of a thing in a
Oh,
couple of
wow.
months. Second album that was supposed to happen in 2020 but never happened because of COVID. The second album is called Alien. uh,
Oh,
it was
okay.
so overwhelming when that's why OK Computer from Radiohead, that album was so connecting with me, because the I read the note that was there, written why OK Computer was made, what this album comprises of in Apple Music, and it was exactly what I was feeling. So that's why No Surprises connected with me a lot. So currently, majorly, I'm working parallelly on writing songs with Urka, and writing and recording with Urka. We are going to record the album same way how we recorded our first album in maybe August. We'll record, and maybe end of the year we'll release it, hopefully. And same way, we have a bunch of film projects in my scope. I'm doing a Telugu film, sports drama, Telugu film. I'm doing
Oh, wow.
a, a bunch of fantasy films. One is a rom com, one is a sci fi thriller, and yeah, I'm just so excited for the road ahead, because musical possibilities are going to be totally, various soundscapes are going to be there because of the backdrop of the film, and the atmosphere of where the story is happening and all that. So I'm just looking forward to all those things.
Speaking of future possibilities, and this is an extremely cliche question, so please forgive me. But I myself, at least, as a part-time musician, I've been kind of experimenting a lot with the possibilities of music within AI.
Mm,
Everyone's talking about AI nowadays. And music, I think this year has kind of been a real turning point with, the development of Suno and Udio, softwares that will just generate music from scratch in
mm,
like a minute if you just give it a prompt, kind of a
yeah,
chat GPT equivalent for
yeah, yeah.
music. And it's been really fascinating for me to kind of explore this, but also quite scary. Sometimes, you just type something in and you're just like, I could never make that even if I spent a year on this. Like, how's this machine doing it in a minute? Um, I'm just wondering, in your work, have you had the opportunity to explore kind of the possibilities with AI? And is there anything that you've discovered in terms of helping your workflow or helping your creativity in any way?
Not yet,
Hmm.
but I'd love to. I might also look more deeply into it because sampling and meddling around with the samples will give you inspirational sounds. Sometimes will add the color to your sound to your song, and maybe in that context I'll definitely go for something. There is something that could get me those samples and to flip around with that. And maybe I don't know, I'm just saying randomly because I'm not totally into that side of it till now, because I remember I used a platform to split songs into stems.
Right.
Yeah, I was quite fascinated by that because until now we couldn't do it. Either we'll have to make the song from scratch to do it. So that was quite fascinating for me. That might help a lot of karaoke singers because I've done that. I've made karaoke's for songs and got paid like
Oh.
200 rupees, 300 rupees and all for me. So it was quite easier to know that just a click of a button would do this. But I've not integrated AI into my workflow yet. But the softwares that I use like Logic Pro
Hmm.
and Ableton have AI features inbuilt. So
Right.
obviously they are having integrated into the mechanism, the schematics of Logic and Ableton. So I think indirectly I'm involved, but directly maybe I'll have to look for what I want first. I need to know what I want and then look for what I want.
Do you use both Logic and Ableton? And if
Yeah.
so, like, is there like certain circumstances where you use one or the other?
No, I just like sometimes you get bored by seeing the horizontal lines, you go for the vertical lines. Just the UI. Sometimes you get bored of just seeing Logic, you go to Ableton. And sometimes Ableton will bore you and come back to Logic and all. Sometimes you you combine both. You make the beat in Ableton, put it in
Hmm.
Logic, like that. Yeah.
Yeah, I've heard of the latter where people are like Ableton's better for beat making. First time I'm hearing that, it's just for the visual shift.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I
It really helped me definitely because
can imagine though, like, yeah. Sorry, carry on.
no, no, no. I said like you mentioned it. Sometimes looking at that particular, because want you try to always not get bored of what you see. You make colors of the tracks and you organize it in a such a way. Whatever you do, it's still in the same UI. Whatever developments come over, it's whatever updates come. So suddenly, when you go to something that's totally new, and you can easily learn that very easily, and make a beat out of it, and it's a little more intuitive than whatever you've been using. Uh, Sometimes that will seem more intuitive than this, based on your requirement. So it's either this or that. Sometimes I use both, but definitely for the first, I shifted mainly not using Logic because of the eyesore that I got after looking at it for a lot of time. I wanted to myself, refresh myself.
Hmm.
So I need to make music. Then again, making music from Ableton was something totally new for me. Then after some time, I started integrating both.
All
Yeah.
right. And yeah, thank you so much for your time. And we've talked about a lot of things. I like to end my podcasts with one final question. And you've already kind of partly answered this, so I apologize, but I end my podcast with every guest with the same question.
Okay.
And that question is, what's on your playlist?
What's on my playlist? Yeah, it's definitely OK Computer by
Right.
Radiohead and John Mayer's Born and Raised
Oh.
album. What else? I just listened to சந்தன காற்றே செந்தமிழ் ஊற்றே சந்தோஷ பாட்டே வா வா, that song, வா வா வசந்தமே.
Mm,
uh, and I remember Vida Karo from Chamkila. uh, a lot of things. I mean, these are things that just comes to the top of my mind, but these are all constantly in my playlist. When I get into my car, I start playing these tracks from Basha, Tanga Maganinge Singanadi Putte, and Emperu Padayappa, and
mm,
Udayan Tetterilla, yeah, Idayatha Tolacha, that thing, and what else? Salomia,
mm.
that's there. Vida Vidama, Sopa Sipa Kannadi. So these get shuffled in seasons to season. Like after n number of listens, you shift to the other, then come back to the same, like that. Like Logic Ableton. There are only two things here, but playlist there'll be a lot of seasons. There's this one season where I was listening to only Devasar's songs,
Mm.
and while growing up, it was just Rahman sir. Like got a huge craze on him. Just Rahman songs, then Ilayaraja sir songs, then MSV sir songs, then all put together, and then sticking to just one album at a time and all that. I also love Stromae's Sante album. Stromae, there's a French artist called Stromae. Stromae
Okay,
is what
interesting.
he is called, and there's a song called Sante, Sante, by Stromae, and I just
Oh.
love that song. Because I loved his previous songs like Formidable. There's also a song called
Mhm.
Formidable, Stromae, and what else? These are the songs that I go to whenever I want to, just relax and have a moment for myself.
All right, lots of songs for us to check out. I've never heard of Stromae, so I'll need to check
Skrillex
that
also,
artist out.
Skrillex and Fred again, Rumble. I really loved that. I kept
Mm.
listening to back to back in loop. Yeah, but Stromae is really interesting. You should definitely check it out. The band Justice.
Okay, I don't know that band.
You should definitely have a listen. You'll love it. It's
Will do,
electronic,
will do.
but it got the epic electronic retro dance music. They are graphic designers eventually making music. Go read
What?
about it. You love it. We can't believe these are made by just graphic design students. You'll just love it. I am a huge fan of Justice. All these things I know only because of my friends.
Huh, huh.
And now recently I'm just finding my own way of looking into new music by searching it in Apple Music, Amazon Music, YouTube, and all that. But all these artists that I mentioned to you, it was just my friends who played it for me, and I got I note their names, like just like how you did, and go back home, listen to the music.
Interesting, interesting. Okay, then I will follow your actions, and after this episode, I will listen to the ones that stick out to me that I've never heard of are Stromae and Justice. So those will be
Yeah.
first on my list. And listeners, go check them out as well. But yeah, of course, also please check out Bharath's music. He's done so many incredible albums, and both in indie and film, and also great pleasure to speak with you today. And yeah, thank you so much for your
Thanks so
time.
much
I,
for
I
having
really
me.
appreciate it.
Thank
And yeah, hope to hear new music from you soon.
Yeah. A lot of new music from my disc. So do check it out when it releases. I'm so happy to have spoken to you. Even though it's for a longer time, it was not boring for me, or it was not
I'm
something.
glad.
It was not something that I was forcing myself to do. It maybe I would have bored you, but in case
No,
I
no,
did,
no, not at all. That's one thing you don't need to be worried about.
I'd like to just say a word about your podcast if you want.
Oh,
Just give a shout out
sure.
for your podcast.
Yeah, sure. That'd be wonderful. Thank you.
Guys,
Broke
you
my
should definitely.
ego.
Yeah. That will totally be done. So, I really love your way of getting the getting the best out of the people who you interview with, and really hope the best for all your upcoming endeavors in terms of podcasts and music and everything, Nishad. I really hope a lot of people keep listening to you more and more through podcasts and through your music that you'll release eventually. All the best for you.
Thank you. Well, that was Bharath Sankar on our 21st episode on this edition of the Indoencers podcast. And thank you to everyone that has tuned in. You can find us at the Indoencers, spelled THEINDOENCERS, on Instagram, or you can use the links in the description. Make sure to subscribe to the Indoencers podcast on your favorite podcasting platform for more conversations with artists around India. Thank you once again, and we'll see you next time.